Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today I'm here with an organization called AMillionDrops, located in Hollywood, California. And I'm here with Josh, who is the manager of AMillionDrops, with some of the participants here of the organization. And Josh, if you can tell us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, AMillionDrops is a learning center for people who are homeless and at-risk youth. I believe we work with a lot of compassion and love for all of our participants here. I've seen people make great changes in their lives. Some are now housed, some have gone employment, and others, I think, have just been working on themselves in a variety of ways. And these are some of our participants here, myself included, here for Charles' workshop today.
Do any of you have something else you guys want to add?
Thank you, Charles, for everything you're teaching us.
Thank you, Scott. And again, as Josh said, it's for the homeless and at-risk youth of Los Angeles. And what I've seen is that a percentage of you guys are also working, but the cost of rent here in Los Angeles being such an expensive city, even with employment, it's hard to still find shelter. And AMillionDrops helps curb those needs and provide some of the necessities and resources to make things possible, right?
Yeah, I consider it a very safe environment where people can come during the day and work on things, and even amount of people who are homeless in LA or people who struggle mentally going to just a public library, I find is kind of hostile at times, and we work very hard to keep it a safe, friendly environment.
So this environment helps, in my experience, again, it provides the opportunity for people to take showers, laundry, there's food, there's I see some arts and paints and books, and I mean there's just a lot of resources.
Yeah, the showers are actually run by Compassion Connections at the church on the same property, but everything else we do cover, and we work closely together with them. So.
Wonderful, thanks. Well, today I'm going to be discussing what I've titled here, Planting an Olive Tree, the New Era Method, and it involves 6 steps, and I'm fortunate that I count there's 6 of us here, so hopefully each of us can take one of these steps in helping get what I've got here to my right is a mission variety olive tree, which is known as being a quality good table olive. And there's 2 types of olives, one being the table olive, one that's good for eating, and the other varieties are good for pressing to get the oils. So there's the oil olive, and then there's the table olive, and of course there's also the fruitless olive, if the goal is to have just the ornamental nature, as it is a beautiful tree. But our goal with this planting is to have food that'll provide AMillionDrops as well as the surrounding community for many decades to last. And olives, unlike many fruit trees that have a average lifespan that may be under 50 years, olive trees will live naturally as long as 500 years, and some olives have been discovered to live as long as 1,500 years. So hopefully this is going to be a long-lasting tree here for the community, and I'm just excited to plant this together with you, and we'll get to monitor the progress from year to year together. So let's get started with planting tip number 1 of the New Era planting method. Let's get started. So here's step 1 of the planting method, which is preparing the hole. And right now I've got Derek, who's preparing the hole. We're basically digging out enough soil to get this container into the hole. The goal is to maybe go a little wider, but not necessarily any deeper. So whatever the height is of the container, and you can see that the soil level within here is a couple of inches less, so we don't have to go quite so deep. We might go a little wider so that the roots can expand, but again, it's not necessarily to go deeper. And then we're going to improve the soil using mulch, and this here is a product I got from Kellogg's, and we're going to be using the product not within the hole. The misconception in most of the growing labels out there will say to put 50% compost with your 50% native soil and to mix the 2 together. In this lesson, we're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use the compost to improve just the top 2 to 3 inches of the soil. We're going to use the native soil and backfill that back in, and the primary reason is that the compost is going to break down, and once it breaks down, the tree within the hole will settle if we put 50% compost with 50% native soil. So by putting too much compost within the planting hole, that'll cause the plant to collapse and lead to a phenomenon known as stem rot, as the soil will then backfill higher up the plant, leading to a shorter and more disease-prone plant. So it's important again that we're going to backfill it with the native soil and then just improve the top 2 to 3 inches of soil with the compost. So that's going to be our next step. Let's see where we're at now. So that's a good hole. So here we are now. If you take a look at the hole, we've gone a little bit deeper. We're simply going to take our native soil, we're going to put that back into place. The goal when we put the potted plant within the hole, we want to make sure that the soil level of the plant is going to be the same in the container as it will be in the planting hole. I want to get that up a little higher. You can imagine that if this had added 50% compost, the plant is naturally going to settle in the upcoming few weeks, maybe a few months. But it's important that we backfill using the native soil. This is the new era planting method, and there's a lot of research to support this. And I'm hoping this helps improve your success in planting trees. So here we go now. And then, Derek, I'm going to give you the privilege of planting the tree. So if you can actually put that in the ground for us, what you're going to do is you're going to simply hold the plant. I'll actually hold it, and you can actually pull it out of the container. What I'm going to do is simply tap the bottom of the plant and the sides, and if you can just pull it out, you're going to hold on to the tree trunk, and we'll loosen it out like that. Good. And then I'm going to hold the bottom of the plant. What I'm looking for is to see if there's any coiled roots near the bottom, which I don't see any, but I'm simply going to loosen the soil on the bottom to let the plant know you're no longer root bound, and that we're going to put you now in the soil. And here we go. The height is good. I'm looking at the soil level, how it compares to the rest of the soil within the planting area. There's a little bit more higher wood chips, but don't be mistaken, the soil level is about the same height. We're now going to backfill using the native soil, and then we're going to enrich it with compost in the top 2 to 3 inches. So let's do that together. What we're doing as we come around the plant is I'm taking my fingers and just lightly trying to fill in any air pockets that may exist around the hole so that the roots are not in contact with any air pockets where the roots may possibly dry out. We want to make sure that those roots are in contact with the soil around it. And here we are now. We're now down to the last couple of inches of backfilling it. So this is the time I'm now going to take my compost and add it to the rest of the native soil. So now we can mix this mixture 50-50, and we're simply using now the mixture 50% native soil, 50% compost as the top dressing around the plant. So Derek, you can help me backfill this now. And what's going to happen naturally is now all the earthworms and beneficial organisms within the soil will come up to the compost, get to that enriched environment, and then go back down and naturally improve the entire planting zone, which is the way it would otherwise occur naturally in nature. So let's continue.
He digs holes and has the soil mixture all together, and he poop and pee and make fertilizers.
You're right, they call this worm gold. All of the waste that a worm makes is worm gold. When it does contribute towards waste in the soil, it will help the plant also be more bug proof. Did you know that? Yeah. So the worm gold, when it's absorbed by the plant, will help repel aphids among other insects within the plant, because within the waste of the worm there's an enzyme known as chitinase, and that actually, when absorbed by the plant, any insect that chews on the plant, it'll make their exoskeletons weaker. The chitinase basically breaks down the chitin walls, exoskeleton of those insects. Anyways, the next step that we're going to do now is mulch. We're going to be now adding wood chips around the base of the plant, and this is one of the most important of the things that you can do for your trees within your garden. And Isaiah is here to help me, and do you want to share us maybe some of the ideas that we discussed on why put wood chips around your plant? Do you want to share that?
Why, which one?
Why would you want to put wood chips around your tree? What benefits does that bring for your plant?
Yeah, same way when you stay on the sun on the beach to get some sun bath, sun tune up your skin. Same way the soil also get the tune up. So the sun touch, it's not good the sun to touch directly the moisture. So
exactly. So another value by adding wood chips, it'll help keep the weeds down.
Yeah.
The other value, as Isaiah said as well, is he was talking about summer sun as well, is it'll help keep the soil cooler. In the winter, it'll also insulate the soil, keeping the soil warmer. And another value, as we just saw the worm earlier, is it's going to break down and provide nutrients to the all the biology that's within the soil, such as the beneficial insects, beneficial microbes, and the worms. And as these wood chips will break down, as this once made a tree, as these elements break down, it'll also naturally feed the plant with each watering as well. So there's a ton of value of what wood chips will do. Yes.
Also, one thing I never heard nobody in any biology classes talk about, that the ultraviolet of the sun does not only give cancers for us, but also dries up.
Well, when it comes to sunburn, we're going to discuss sunburn towards the end of this. But now let's go and apply now the wood chips around the base of the tree. So let's do that together. So
I never heard a professor talk about that.
So if we can get these wood chips all the way around. And the goal is to add a nice 2 to 3 inch layer of wood chips around the tree. But here's the biggest mistake I see with people adding wood chips around their plant. And you can see I've now brought these wood chips close to the tree. You're going to want to make sure that the wood chips stay away from the tree trunk. So we're now basically pushing the wood chips away from the tree trunk, as the wood chips will absorb water, as will the tree trunk of the olive, and together it'll result in a phenomenon known as stem rot. And we want to avoid the risk of stem rot, so we're going to keep these wood chips away from the stem and then build it up 2 to 3 inches, maximum I'd say 4 inches, as you work the drip line of the tree. So we're simply going to pull those wood chips away and around, and now we've just concluded step number 2. So here we are now, step 3 is pruning. And the value of pruning is we're going to want to make sure that the plant's resources grow in the direction we want it. And the second important one is to offset shock. So we just loosen the root ball before planting it. Any damage we may have done to the roots or any shock we may have contributed to the plant can be offset by then pruning the plant. And there's some of these lower branches on the tree trunk that I know we will not want as we're trying to grow this plant to be a good 10 to 15 feet tall. These lower branches, if they support fruit, are going to be too close to the ground. So the first thing we're going to do is remove all of these lower branches. So Scott, if you can give me the honor, and we're simply going to prune those branches back.
The move is very important.
So I'm going to show with Scott as he's pruning. You can see that he's coming in as close as he can to the tree trunk, and we're doing a nice clean cut. If he prunes, for example, if you want to prune a little distance away, let's say right there, it's going to end up more likely than not dying and resulting in a entryway for beetles and termites as well, as this is going to be dead wood. But we're going to want to cut it flush, and then we're going to be sealing this towards the end with the Ivory Organics products. And these are some more branches you can just continue removing. So we're just going to remove these last 2 branches and this dead branch as well. You have to squeeze in between. Can you get there?
Yeah.
Here we go. Good.
Yeah, because like
And one more right there.
like the money to make money off of is like your friend.
This reminds me a lot of taking care of human hair in the same way, right? It's similar to cosmetology.
Yeah.
It helps with the growth. Anyway.
Pruning. Eric just mentioned, can we plant these? And the answer is yes. You can actually make cuttings out of olives and propagate your olive trees. Some, for example, Kalamata olives don't work so well from cutting, and therefore are propagated by way of grafting. So yes, these can be propagated by way of simply planting them in the ground. There are other better practices for making cuttings, but what we're going to do today, Scott, is we're simply going to put our cuttings around the tree, as this is going to be some of the mulch that'll break down and add to the soil biology, and it just makes sense to just leave it here. So that's what we're going to do with our cuttings today. And now we're going to move on to step number 4. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
So here I am now with Eric, and he's going to help me with the next step, which is staking. And a lot of people don't like the idea of staking their trees, but I think it's instrumental, at least in the first year, possibly second year, and with good pruning practices, the plant will get stronger in a very short period of time, within the second to third year. But I like staking my tree to make sure that it remains in the direction that I want the tree to grow. Whereas without a stake, in the first wind, that first Santa Ana wind that comes through, that might redesign the shape and the pattern of the plant. And if I'm not here to recorrect it, I just wouldn't want that to happen. So we're gonna stake it to make sure that it's supported. And another reason to restake it, even though this tree is already staked, if you come in a little closer, is that the ties on the tree are typically on from the nursery a lot tighter. There was 3 ties on it. I took 1 off, so there's still 2 more ties right in these areas. But the bandages, it's exactly like adding a tourniquet to your arm. The vessels within the plant, which are underlying the bark, which is that cambium layer that's moving the sugars from the leaves down to the roots and the water from the roots up to the leaves, are being constricted by that tight bandages. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the bandage today, and we're gonna put on a loose supporting stake. So we're gonna take off the old stake. Again, we could keep it, but I'm gonna put in our own stake and actually keep a greater distance between the stake and the plant. So you can put that in now. I'll help you. We're gonna actually put it a little further away, like so. And if you can push that in, and then, here, let me help you get in as far as you can go. There we go. And now I'm gonna give you the honor of tying the knot. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna tie the knot to the stake, and we're not tying the knot onto the tree. Logical, but a lot of people make the mistake. They'll tie the knot onto the tree, which again will constrict the bark and the underlying cambium tissues. You tie the knot against the stake, and then we're gonna wrap it around the tree and secure it from there.
You're well balanced man.
That's good. So when I support the tree, I like to wrap it. I'll have you do it. I like to go around one of the branches, so at least that tie will rest there. And then you can now secure it against the stake. And you're gonna do it nice and loose, just like that. There'll be some movement, which is healthy for the plant, and it'll actually improve the strength within the tree trunk, that there's actually some flexibility within the tree trunk than if it was completely tied tight against a tree stake. So it's actually healthier to have some distance between the tree and the stake, unlike the way you bought it from the nursery. That's perfect. So now let's just secure that knot, and then we'll cut off the excess. Stake, as I mentioned earlier, if there's a Santa Ana wind or somebody walks against it and it gets toppled over, it may grow in a different position. I want to make sure that that primary leader, which is that main tree trunk, which is in the upright position, remains basically in that 90-degree angle to the ground. The goal in the future is, as these small branches will one day become the primary branches supporting hopefully 100 pounds of olives per branch, I want to make sure that that weight is centered against that central leader branch. That's really thinking in the future, but ultimately that's what we're trying to strive for. Is we want that tree to be centered with the branches balanced around a central leader, a central trunk, whereas if it was leaning in one direction, it would put all of its weight towards one side, and eventually the tree will continue toppling over in that direction. So that's the reason to make sure it remains in the upright position. And then with that, we'll just cut off the excess string, and then we're done. Thank you, Eric. That was awesome. So now we're off to step number 5. A gallon of water to this container. What I'm gonna have you do is just take a tablespoon of the 6 Macros Plus Super Blend fertilizer. It has a very high NPK and also very soluble. But what 6 Macros Plus also has is 6 of the macronutrients, which is unlike any other organic fertilizer on the market. If you can come in a little closer, you can take a look what the product looks like here. This here is a tablespoon cup. We're gonna do 1 tablespoon to a gallon of water. We're going to add that and then mix it in. But if you take a look at the ingredients here, you can see that it's got nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. All of the macronutrients plants need for healthy growth, greening, longevity, fruit production, all the metabolic processes of the plant, as well as a lot of the micronutrients and beneficial microbes and mycorrhiza as well. So even if you're dealing with, let's say, a potting mix that has no soil life, you can now begin adding the beneficial microbes or mycorrhiza to bring that life to your soil. So we're going to be adding that and complementing it to the tree. And what we're going to do here with the solution is we're simply going to drench it over the entire plant, as the leaves will absorb a lot of that product and it'll serve as a foliar feed, and then whatever is remaining will end up in the soil. So that's going to be our next step now. So if you want the pleasure of watering the tree, just from the top, just from the top down.
So basically it's giving it a shower, really.
We're basically giving it a shower, but keep in mind that it's getting all of the nutrients the plants need. The nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. All of that's going into the soil. What you can do, I'm going to take the end off here. We can put the rest of it in the soil now. What you can also do is you can filter the products through like a sock or a paint strainer to remove all of the thick particles that have blocked this. I'll now rinse this off. The rest of it you can water now around the base of the tree, but you can filter it and then use it also as a foliar nutritional spray so it doesn't block any of your spray ends. So now we're just going to continue.
And also like the time of the day to shower the tree, you don't want to do it in the morning, noonday, it needs to be in the early in the morning or late in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, so when watering it, you want to make sure that you basically soak the plant when you water it. So now I'm just simply adding a lot more water. I'm going to be watering the entire zone. I'll have you do this, Josh. So now we're watering the entire area. The goal when watering the plants is to soak it, and then there's no need to re-water it until the soil is pretty much dry but never bone dry. So that is your tip, is to water again when the soil is dry but never bone dry, and that'll be different between spring compared to summer, compared to fall, compared to winter. So in the summer, a tree like this, and being that it's surrounded by concrete, I may water twice a week. In the spring and fall, I might water maybe once a week. And in the winter, I might not water at all, as long as we're blessed this year in Southern California with our rains. So hopefully as long as it rains once a month, that might be all the water it needs for the month. But being that it's a new planting, we're going to be watering this at least twice a week for the first month, maybe for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and just to make sure that the roots get established and start growing into that native soil. And too frequently, it'll result in a phenomenon known as root rot. And then again, the reason we didn't put the 50% compost into the native backfill mix is, again, the plant may potentially collapse, leading to a phenomenon known as stem rot, because now the plant will be too deep in the soil. That's why we didn't use compost into the backfill mix. But that was a good question, thank you. Our next and final tip is now going to be whitewash. So let's get on to tip number 6. So here we are now. Planting tip number 6 of the new era planting method is whitewashing. A lot of trees, when you get them, they pretty much have the tree structure high, leaving this entire tree trunk exposed, or a graft union that's exposed, or a pruned branch that's exposed. If you're coming a little closer, I want to share with you what we're dealing with here. So if you can see over here, there's a pruned branch. This here is a perfect entryways for beetles, termites, and disease to enter the plant. We're going to be coating that. Instead of using a latex paint or a tar-based product that'll trap the moisture behind there, or if this was a grafted union, this would be another perfect time to apply it. But Derek, if you want to start painting, you can coat the damaged surface over here, this pruned branch. You can coat it now, and then you can continue brushing the entire tree trunk as well, working your way all the way up to the lower branches. Wonderful. And what Derek's using is this product over here, which is the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard Protection against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, for use on your fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs, for use in organic production, healthier than latex, paint, and tar-based products. And in addition to the active oils, which are right here, which include castor, cinnamon, cloves, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. So you got those active oils. We're going to continue applying the product as low as you can to the soil as well. The value that'll do by coating it lower is it's also going to protect against girdling rodents, and that's an issue I'm starting to see people. Here we are planting now in December. The rodents are getting especially hungry for fruits, seeds, and nuts. and they're starting to now chew on tree trunks to get to the underlying sap. So this product will also protect against that. So we're gonna continue applying the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard all the way around, starting at the soil level and working the way up. And that's great. Thank you very much, Derek. Looking good. So there we have it, the 6 tips for the new era planting method. I hope you enjoyed that from all of us here at AMillionDrops in Hollywood, California. Thank you all for your help. We all did our part in making this happen. If you enjoyed this educational lesson brought to you by Ivory Organics, be sure to give us a thumbs up, and most importantly, by subscribing down below. You'll be connected to this and all of our other educational gardening lessons. And most importantly, don't forget to hit that push bell notification to get informed of all of these videos as soon as they become released. Wishing you all from AMillionDrops and Ivory Organics, happy gardening.